Welcome to The Explainer. If you love a sports narrative packed with absolute heartbreak, immense historical weight, and ultimately sheer resilience, you are going to be fascinated by this one. Today, we're diving into the roller coaster story of Oldham Athletic. This is a club that truly embodies the absolute highest highs and the most agonizing lows of the beautiful game. Imagine going from playing in front of millions in the world's richest league to fighting for your literal existence outside the professional tier. It's a wild ride, so let's get right into it.
So the big question we're answering today is really, how does this happen? How exactly does a club go from being minutes away from knocking off the biggest giants in the sport during the 90s to finding themselves completely shut out of the Football League decades later? And even more importantly, how on earth do you come back from the brink of total collapse?
Part 1. The Premier League Heartbreak. To really understand the fall, we have to rewind back to Joe Royle's Oldham in the newly formed Premier League, specifically the 1993-94 season. Just a year prior, they had pulled off this miraculous survival act, staying up purely on goal difference. But, well, the margins in top-flight football are brutally unforgiving. Oldham finished that 93-94 season in 21st place with exactly 40 points. That is just a couple of agonizing points shy of safety, right behind Sheffield United and Ipswich Town. They fought tooth and nail, but the great escape just didn't happen this time around.
Tracing that season month by month reveals a true emotional roller coaster for the fans. It started dismally, with a 10-match winless run that practically anchored them to the bottom of the table. But, true to their fighting spirit, they scraped a gutsy 1-0 win at Chelsea that suddenly sparked a revival. Fast forward to April and they're absolutely hammering QPR 4-1 at home. Fans actually started believing they could survive again. Yet it all came down to a ridiculously tense, unforgiving final day away at Carroll Road against Norwich City.
That final day yielded a deeply bittersweet 1-1 draw. Sean McCarthy managed to find the back of the net for Oldham, giving them a fighting chance, but a draw simply wasn't enough. The final whistle didn't just end a match, it ended Oldham Athletic's magical 3-year stay in the Premier League. But you know what the wildest part of the story is? Relegation is actually only half of the tragedy they suffered that year.
Part 2. The FA Cup Dream.
It is incredibly rare to see a team fighting for their absolute lives at the bottom of the league while simultaneously taking down giants in a cup competition. But that was Joe Royle's squad. They found themselves at the iconic Wembley Stadium, facing the absolute powerhouse of the era, Manchester United. This was a monumental clash on the grandest stage imaginable, and Oldham Athletic were literally 1 minute away from securing their first ever FA Cup final appearance.
Talk about ultimate emotional whiplash. Deep into extra time at Wembley, Oldham is leading 1-0 thanks to a goal from Neil Redfearn. The fans are delirious. The final is right there in sight. But in the dying seconds, Manchester United's Mark Hughes scores a dramatic, heartbreaking equalizer to force a replay. The aftermath of that was just devastating. In the replay at Main Road, a visibly emotionally exhausted Oldham side was absolutely crushed 4-1. They lost their magic right at the finish line, and honestly, that collapse spilled over and ultimately doomed their league survival hopes as well.
Part 3. Falling out the league.
Fast forward through the decades, and that legacy of Wembley heroics faded into a really grim new reality for the 2022-23 season. The sheer historical gravity of the year 1906-07 is staggering, because that was the very last time Oldham Athletic had played a season outside the Professional Football League. Think about that. For 115 years, through 2 world wars and countless generations of fans, Oldham had been a proud member of the top 92 clubs in the country. So falling into the National League wasn't just a demotion, it was a devastating blow to the entire town's identity.
Dropping into non-league football brought a harsh, crumbling reality. And this wasn't just about bad results on the pitch, the actual physical infrastructure of the club was falling apart. The owner, Abdallah Lemzagam, was looking to sell, which created this massive leadership vacuum. Boundary Park, their historic home, was operating with only 3 stands because the North Stand remained completely shuttered. Plagued by off-field disputes, unpaid rent, and an atmosphere of total toxicity, the fans are basically watching the institution they loved slowly die.
Historical records from that preseason noted that the club commenced with a deep, lingering uncertainty over its very future. There was no grand, optimistic plan for an immediate return, just an overwhelming dread about whether the club would even survive in its current form. It is literally the lowest point imaginable for a fan base that still vividly remembered the glamorous heights of the Premier League.
Part 4. The 2025 Redemption. But, true underdog stories rarely end in the dark.
After a couple of grueling years navigating the notoriously physical landscape of the National League, the club stabilized. It all came down to the 2025 playoff final against Southend. This was it. A do-or-die match to finally reclaim their Football League status. In a league where only 2 teams go up, the playoffs are just a brutal lottery. For 90 minutes, every single pass, every single tackle carried the weight of the club's entire future.
And then came the moment of pure catharsis, a thrilling 3-2 victory for Oldham, secured in the nerve-shredding tension of extra time. After surviving the absolute heartbreak of conceding late goals in their past, this time, Oldham were the ones writing the spectacular Hollywood ending. To win a promotion final 3-2 in extra time is the stuff of pure footballing fantasy, especially for a group of fans who had endured closed stands and constant threats of administration.
Through sheer unyielding resilience, the club banished the ghosts of 1994 and the miseries of 2022. They earned a euphoric return to the English Football League, officially ending their non-league nightmare. And the biggest takeaway here isn't just about a team winning a trophy, right? It's about a community that absolutely refused to let their 128-year-old club die quietly in the shadows. It proves that no matter how far an institution falls, a structural, foundational revival is always possible.
As we watch a revived club step back onto the stage where they truly belong, it leaves us with an incredible thought. They've touched the promised land, they've survived the absolute abyss, and now they are back on the rise. In an era where modern football is heavily dominated by billionaires and state ownership, what does the future hold next for a gritty, resilient, fan-driven club like Oldham Athletic? Well, if their history is anything to go by, it certainly won't be boring. Thanks for joining me on this explainer today. Keep learning, and I'll catch you on the next one.